You're now watching Sports Bettor's Paradise on the BetRivers Network.
All right, with Paul Stone talking some college basketball this week, as we do each and every week here on the Sports Bettor's Paradise on the BetRivers Network. And now the tournaments are underway. The smaller conferences, the big boys are wrapping up their regular season this weekend as well. So we're looking at some of the bubble teams as bubble this, bubble that. And, you know, it's some people think that a little bit the people are going to back these bubble teams blind sometimes, so it's baked in a little bit. Certainly is in other sports like the NFL, where the teams have something to play for in that last week of the regular season. But it's not always the way to go. So looking at some teams this week, Paul, we're looking at the bubble teams that we've both identified. Let's start with the ones that we're that we like. And you and I are on the same page with the first one, and that is the St. John's Red Storm. An unorthodox motivational angle by Rick Pitino to just slam the physical, I guess, limitations of his roster. But somehow, some way, they are playing better ball. This is a tough week to with DePaul and Georgetown. But still, St. John's, Paul, is a team that you like kind of coming into form, heading into the regular season and into the conference tournament play.
Yeah, Jimmy, you talked about when St. John's lost to Seton Hall, lost on their home floor on February 18th. Rick Pitino, their veteran coach, calls them out, calls out some players publicly by name. But since that date, the Red Storm, they've won 4 straight games, covered 3 of those games. They really seem to be on a upward trajectory. They wake up this morning 34th in the net rankings. This Saturday, which is going to be March 9th, they host Georgetown there at Madison Square Garden, one of their home floors. Going to be about an 18-point home favorite, so they obviously need to win that game. It would be a backbreaker for their chances if they were to be the victim of the big upset, but I don't see it. You just look at this team again. They're going to be playing the Big East tournament at Madison Square Garden, where they play some of their home games. They're playing well. Even with the draw undetermined, I just think this St. John's team is one to look to back, not only in the Big East tournament coming up next week at Madison Square Garden, but likely beyond that in the NCAA men's basketball tournament as well.
Well, Pitino's a great coach. I mean, he's one of the best. And that's why with all of his off-the-court issues, he's still employed. And he's always going to have a gig. But I just wonder with today's, student-athlete climate, transfer portal, NIL, whatever, I didn't know how they would respond to this. I mean, because that's one thing if you want to criticize our basketball IQ or, mental breakdowns here, but to just attack things that, are God-given, I mean, that's pretty rough. But they have done it. And I will say this, I guess this St. John's roster, as all new as it is, I guess one thing I identify with Pitino's teams over the year, going all the way from Boston U to Providence to Kentucky, they're mentally tough. And I guess I got to tell you, the St. John's team to perform like they did, to be publicly embarrassed like it is, I got to think they're pretty mentally tough as well, that big game. And, yeah, that loss lead on that was a Sunday night against Seton Hall at home. That was a 17 or 19-point lead that they blew in that game against Seton Hall. Paul, a few teams that I'm backing as well, and I'm looking is I like Villanova. Now, they lost at Seton Hall this week, but they're at home against Creighton. That's kind of a circle game for them. They have been pretty good down the stretch, really good down the stretch until not covering midweek, but 7-1 before that with the only loss against UConn in a bounce-back mode. Iowa is, but Villanova is projected to get +2 against Creighton this weekend. Iowa is really playing their best ball, and McCaffrey he's polarizing, I guess you could say, but his team is playing well at this point by any stretch. We talked about how below what they normally are this year, but they're +3 against Illinois, and I wonder a little bit of zapped energy with Illinois blowing that 7-point halftime lead against Purdue and eliminating them from the conference championship play. And then also Pitt -6.5 against NC State. NC State's bubble is bursted. Pitt is a sneaky good team, but those are some of the teams that I'm looking at this week as well. Any thoughts on those matchups this weekend or those teams?
Well, first of all, I mean, this Villanova team last night, as we record Wednesday, March 6th, last night, they lost at Seton Hall, as you referenced, by 10. So that definitely didn't help their chances. But the Big East, you talking about drama in their upcoming tournament. You've got not only Villanova and Seton Hall who played last night, but you've got Providence and St. John's right on the bubble or around the bubble. So there's a lot of potential drama there in that Big East tournament. Villanova is going to be one of those teams in the mix. I'm with you on Iowa. They're really closing strong. They've won 4 of their last 5. That includes victories at both Michigan State and Northwestern, so a pair of impressive road victories. One at home in overtime over Wisconsin during that stretch. And if it were to upset Illinois this weekend, I think Iowa, despite a overall record currently of 18-12 and a net ranking of only 57th, but if they were to beat Illinois, I think that would really obviously bolster their chances. Might need another victory in the Big Ten tournament. Pitt, I'm maybe not quite as bullish on Pitt as you are, Jimmy, just to be honest about it. They've benefited, I think, from being in that watered-down Atlantic Coast Conference, which after, North Carolina and Duke, not a whole lot. But, I can't, totally discount your opinion because they did win at Cameron Indoor Stadium, and not a whole lot of teams go into Cameron Indoor Stadium and get away with the victory. And they beat Duke by 4 back on January 20th. So that certainly stands out, and I'll be rooting for you with those Pitt Panthers as they go along the rest of their season.
They had another good win on the road. I'm trying to remember as well. I know they had that one against Virginia that we reference a lot. But as I pull it up right here, but they oh my goodness, no, they beat Virginia. They beat Virginia in Charlottesville. They already beat NC State and Raleigh. They beat Duke, North Georgia. Got a lot of road victories in the conference. And they played Clemson pretty tough. They lost by 7 in Clemson, South Carolina. Let's flip the script now and talk about some of the teams that you're not so bullish on, that you're looking to fade, looking to bet against. Let's start with the Utah Utes out of the Pac-12, and I kind of like their football team. The home and away splits are pretty extreme when we're talking about the Utes.
Yeah, this is a team only 1-7 against the spread on the Pac-12 road this year. They're 18-11 as we record here on Thursday, the 7th of March. Their net ranking 46 this morning. They have a critical road swing at the Oregon School starting tonight. Again, Thursday, March 7th. They're at Oregon State in Corvallis, laying 6.5 points. Then on Saturday, they travel to Eugene, playing at Oregon. I project them to be a 1-point underdog in that game. One of the things, and it's a personnel loss that I don't think has been captured too much by the national media, their point guard, Riley Wooster, he last played on January 11th. This is a guy who averages 10 points a game, 5 rebounds a game, 5.5 assists. He's their floor general. Hadn't been the same team without Wooster. 5-8 against the spread overall since his absence. They really need to win both games probably at the Oregon schools this week. I have faded Utah tonight. I've got Oregon State plus 7.5, and we'll probably look to fade them on Saturday and even beyond in the Pac-12 tournament. So Utah, a team having to close on the road. They don't have any more home games left where they've made most of their hay this year. So I'll be looking again to fade the Utes.
Yeah, one of the tough losses for them at home was Arizona, where they had their chance, went to overtime, and lost at home to the Wildcats. Last year's darling and, well, this year's inflated line team, I guess you could say, the Owls of Florida Atlantics. And so they kept their coach. May, he stayed. He's probably going to land a big job in this offseason. Got the big guy down low. You got the guards back. I mean, everything's back. And then, until this week, where they did go to Denton, Texas, and win and cover, they were just 4-13 their last 17. So make it now 5-13 with the win and cover for Florida Atlantic. But kind of one of those Cinderella stories all the way to the Final Four, and just been a little overpriced this year. And almost looks like the Owls are kind of picking their spots after they feel that they're comfortably in winning that neutral site game in Las Vegas against Arizona, which was one of the best games of the year, quite frankly. But it seemed like a team that, I don't know. I've been looking to fade them a lot this year because been looking for those those good prices. They play Memphis this Saturday. Wonder if they'll get up for Penny's team.
Yeah, you would think they would, Jimmy. And I mean, as handicappers, we look to fade teams we feel like are overvalued. And it just seems like this Florida Atlantic team, for lack of a better way to frame it, it's kind of living on its laurels of the past, and the past being last year's improbable run to the Final Four. A big victory, as you referenced, for them last night in Denton, Texas over North Texas. And as you also referenced, they're now, even with that cover and that victory, only 5-13 against the spread since Christmas. So they hadn't really played well for the latter part of the season. I'm not sure that I want to back Penny Hardaway and the Memphis Tigers on Saturday, but Florida Atlantic host Memphis in a huge game this Saturday, March 9th. I look for them to be laying about 6 points. If I could get 7, I might take Memphis, but I'm going to be looking more towards next week's American Athletic Conference tournament in Fort Worth. Maybe not their first game in the tournament, but when they play guys, more their same size that can be competitive with them, I'll be looking for opportunities to fade Florida Atlantic, not only in the AAC tournament next week, but most likely if they do qualify for the NCAA tournament in the big dance as well.
Well, if speaking of Florida Atlantic's weekend opponent this weekend, how about Memphis falling down by 22 on Sunday and winning by 19? At one point, they're up there. It was a 43-point flip. I mean, that's a tough deal there when you got 7.5, you're up 22, and you don't even get a sweat in covering with UAB on a Sunday. All right, in another team that, kind of got back to form if they lost this one, but kind of been fading as of late. And they've got those experienced guards. I've talked about this team earlier as maybe a team to watch moving on in conference tournament play. And that's New Mexico, the Lobos. Senior night this past week, and that was with House and Mashburn, the two the backcourt duo there. And they win and cover against Fresno State for Richard Pitino's crew. And now they get ready for this Saturday, and then a very, very entertaining Mountain West Conference tournament in Las Vegas. The Lobos are kind of fading coming down the stretch as well.
Yeah, I mean, you look at this, as you indicated, you look at this Lobo team on paper, and I mean, it's just easy to get wowed. I mean, they've got 4 double-digit scores. You referenced Jalen House and Jamal Mashburn Jr. being 2 of those. But, as attractive as New Mexico is on paper, to me, they're kind of like that beautiful girl back in high school who just, everything looks perfect, but she just breaks your heart time and time again. And this New Mexico team just doesn't seem to be, their talent on paper. They don't seem to be matching it with their on-the-court performance. They're now 4-5 in their last 9 games straight up. Since January 31st. They've lost at home this season to Boise, UNLV, and then almost inexplicably to Air Force, the latter as an 18.5-point home favorite. Again, they failed to cover 4 of their last 5. They're going to Logan, Utah this Saturday, the 9th of March, to play Utah State. I project Utah State to be about a 2.5 or 3-point home favorite over the Lobos. And if I can lay 3 or fewer, I'm going to take Utah State in that game. And again, this New Mexico team is going to be a team that I'm going to be looking for opportunities to fade the rest of the season.
Hey, I've been looking for that old girlfriend, Paul. Maybe she's in Albuquerque, so maybe I need to get over there and check it out. I've been to the Pit for an NCAA tournament regional before. That's a fabulous place. Places like Omaha, Albuquerque, Salt Lake City, they'll always be on the March Madness rotation as host sites because they support it so well, no doubt about that. Well, I mean, the master of obvious here, I mean, Maftina Fay, Wake Forest. I mean, yeah, thanks. I mean, they get drilled on the road by 2. They're squarely on the bubble. They have to win against Georgia Tech. They're going to come out strong, right? 26-4. They fall behind before they rally and then lose on a little baseline jumper at the buzzer against Georgia Tech. So they're out right now. They are favored, though. That's their first loss at home this year. They beat Duke, like we know, the Court Storm. They haven't won since the Court Storm. But -3 is a projected line. I'm looking maybe to take Clemson. And here's another one for you. These two teams played each other, but they're fading each other. A&M and Ole Miss, I can't back either of these teams. So that is a complete pass. And they put in that game on CBS as well. So, but what a disappointment for Buzz's team in College Station. They were picked to finish second in the SEC. And the SEC is probably a tick behind the Big 12 as far as strength of conferences this year. I mean, ahead of some really good teams, and they have just not been good. Chris Beard will be fine if he's still in Oxford, because there'll be a lot of suitors for him in the offseason. So there's a fade, kind of the bubble teams that are looking to fade or back. And I guess generally speaking, we got more teams that we're fading than we are backing at this point. So do you believe that some of these lines are baked in a little bit? It's just a little bit inflating against the bubble teams, knowing that you're going to get a little chunk of the betting public that is going to bet these bubble teams because they quote unquote have to win?
Yeah, I think it's the public's tendency to to bet those teams that are in the must win situation or the need to win situation. But I like to say, not that I was any good at English, and this is about the only Shakespeare that I can quote, but
there
heavy is the head that wears the crown. I say that over and over, and I think more so than I don't think it's really an advantage to need to win as much as it might be a disadvantage to carrying the burden of having to win. So I see it as more of a disadvantage than an advantage. And like you said, we're always looking for some just incremental line value, and I think you might get it when you fade these teams that are in the must-win situations, taking the other side.
Yes, and next week, and we'll be looking at maybe even some futures, and maybe some prices that are available at BetRivers to win these conference tournaments because, I mean, you can expect that there are going to be some big upsets as well, some money line opportunities maybe for some of these games. We'll look at some of the individual matchups as well. We're doing it all the way through March Madness. For Paul Stone, I'm Jimmy Ott here on the Sports Bettor's Paradise on the BetRivers Network.